I promised you, I told you last week and I told you this morning. This morning with us we got Lyne Forde from St. Mary's and District Historical Society. Good morning, Lyne. How are you?
Good, thanks, Charles. Thanks for having me.
You had a good weekend?
Yes, a very good weekend.
Excellent. I believe we're going to talk about the church up in the hill here?
Yes, the Anglican Church, St. Mary Magdalene.
Excellent. Lyne, could you tell us a bit about yourself first?
Yes, I'm a baby boomer. I was born 2 years after the World War II. I'm not that old. I work full-time for financial advisors, and I'm the secretary of the St. Mary's and District Historical Society.
Excellent. What made you write this book?
Well, I've sort of been researching on and off for about 30 years, and I did in the 1970s research on my family history, which started me being interested in the churchyard because all my family was buried there. And I started to collect information, and it just sort of compiled into a book. I've written the book, but I could have written 2 books. That's how much information I've had.
There's that much information. How long did it take you to write the book?
On and off for about 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lifetime.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, you've been in St. Mary's area all your life, or?
Yes, I'm a 7th generation from this area. 6 generations are buried up in the church.
Wow. So you got your spot ready there. I don't know where mine is going to be. I'm looking for one. I think I'm getting close. Anyway, okay, Lyne, how did you get involved with the St. Mary's and District Historical Society?
Well, I was the secretary of the first District Historical Society back in I was there for 12 years, and then I started a couple of years ago back with the new one.
Excellent. Okay, could you tell us something about this book now?
Well, the book is on the people buried in the churchyard. I have information on some families. A lot of information is gleaned from the Nepean Times, which is up in the Penrith Library, telling the life of the people. It's a great source of information, and it gives you background on the people that are buried up there. That's the research that I've been doing extensively over the last couple of years for the book. So,
have you got the book for sale in somewhere, or?
No, the book is only available from me at the moment.
All right, but are you going to publish it, or?
It is published, but at the moment I don't have an outlet for it now.
All right. So, sort of, would you be interested to find outlets, or?
Well, I would, yes. At the moment, it's only available from me, and I only print it off as needed because it gets a bit expensive if I haven't got an outlet.
Yeah, it will be, yeah. And it's very hard. I mean, gee, it took you all these years to write it, so I just hope you'll be able to sell a few copies.
Well, I have sold a few. I've sold about 75 copies so far since I published it last year.
Can I ask you, was the cost of the book, or you want to keep it?
No, the cost of the book is $30. That includes postage.
$30 including support. So, would you like to tell our listeners how they can get a copy of the book?
Yes, you can write to me, care of Post Office Box 4023 Warrington 2747, or give me a ring on 9673 3506.
Excellent. Have you got any intentions of writing any more books?
Yes, I did write Timeless Heroes, which was on the volunteers from the St. Mary's area in the First World War. That was back in the 80s, which is now out of print. But I'm hoping to revise that and maybe next year redo it again.
Okay. Lyne, can you tell us a bit about the St. Mary's District Historical Society?
Yes, we meet at the Arts Centre in Manly Road every 4th Saturday at 1:15.
Can any member of the public meet your society, or
Yes, we're always interested in meeting members, and new members are fine. Just turn up at our meeting, or give me a ring on the number I told you, and I'll tell you how to come to our meetings. And we all enjoy new members, and we all enjoy our meetings.
So, being a member of your society, what do you expect from the members?
Basically, to come to our meetings, and if they have any input regarding family members from this area, we're always happy to receive more information. We have the meeting first, and then we have our afternoon tea, and then we have a guest speaker if the guest speaker is available. So even if the people aren't interested in the history of the area, it's still an outlet for them.
So does it cost them any money to join as a member?
If they want to join, they don't have to join, but if they want to join, it's $5 a year.
$5, which is not what's $5 a day.
That's right. It's very good.
Kids spend that on lollies every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can buy sandwiches for something 50.
I know, it's very good value.
Okay, so exactly what does your work involve there? I mean, members of the society, do you go to visit schools or sick people and things like that?
Well, our members at the moment, some of them, we get dressed up. We all love getting dressed up in old-fashioned clothes. And we go to fates, and we go to open days, and we go to anything that's historical that we like to get involved with. We have our Float in the Spring Festival here in St Mary's in September. And we also, our President, Norma Thorburn, does a lot of liaisons with the public on our behalf.
Well, Norma comes here every first Monday, but today she was generous and let you come in.
That's very nice of her.
Very nice of her. But that big float that was in the St. Mary's Spring Festival with elderly people sitting on bench, was that your float? How did you manage to get up there?
Oh, if you'd have seen this, it was very funny. We had a little step ladder, and it was very hard with those long dresses on to get up those steps. We were sort of hoisted up by the men on the top.
Right. Well, that's a long way, up there.
It is a long way, especially when you're on the ground and you have to hoist your skirts up around your neck to get up.
Okay, then some people mentioned in your book that are buried at the cemetery up the road at St. Mary's of Magdalene. Can you tell us about a couple of them and sort of their background?
Yeah, I sure can. I'll be nice and not pick my family.
All right.
Okay. Now, Joseph Chesham, he's buried up there. He had a family of 10 children, and the poor man suffered from rheumatism, and he died of dropsy and Bright's disease at his residence on Forester Road at St Mary's. That was in 1901. He was aged 66. He was a one-time fettler for the railway, and Harriet, his wife, died in 1922 at the same residence at the age of 86. They came to Australia in 1855 and lived in the Maitland district before coming to St Mary's in 1872. Now, James Payne, he was born in England in 1814 and came as a bounty immigrant in the 1830s. He was a brickmaker by trade and helped to make the bricks to build the church. He also resided in the Dunhevert estate and took up farming. He was known as an unassuming, honest and industrious man who kept to himself but was a member of the church and a regular worshipper. He died at the age of 84 after a brief illness at his residence in 1898. His wife Anne died 6 years before in 1892 after 6 weeks of ailing health at the age of 80. Benjamin Loveday was born in 1822 and came to St Mary's in the 1840s. He was a builder of the Lethbridge residence Tregear and also helped Joe Sainsbury with the construction of William Neal's first store. He also built his own home and was a keen gardener and grape grower. On the day he died at his son's residence at Parramatta in 1898, he was going fishing but complained of diarrhea and was given a dose of chloridide, which is something that they gave people to relieve the diarrhea, and it seemed to relieve him. His son gave him a drink at 2 o'clock and went to check on him at 4 p.m, but he had died. He was 76 years old.
Also, I'm sort of noticing here, I see Lethbridge and Tregear. This is where all these names related to.
That's right.
Lethbridge Park and all this stuff.
That's correct.
Excellent. Any more?
Yes, we have plenty more. We've got James Beecroft, who was born in 1835. He was an old buffer. Now, an old buffer was a fraternity in St Mary's that consisted of all the old members of St Mary's. He was a veteran cricketer and an alderman on the St Mary's Council, and there from 1893 to 95. He was married to Elizabeth Beecroft. She was an Andrews, the daughter of Samuel and Harriet Andrews, who was a judge, that's me judge, who died in 1920 at the age of 80. This is James. James suffered from pleurisy and inflammation of the lungs and died at the age of 75 in 1911.
The Reward cricket has been going on all this time.
Oh, yeah.
1835.
Cricket was very important back in the old days, yes.
And George Albert Dolan, what can you tell us about him?
He was a bricklayer at St Mary's, who also worked in the Thompson Tannery and lived in Sainsbury Street. He was born in St Mary's in 1860 and died aged 75 in 1935. He married Mary Ann Andrews in 1881. Mary Ann was the daughter of Charles and Isphena Andrews, near Maskey, and she died in 1949, aged 88.
Something like this girl was a carpenter. What kind of tools do you think they could have been using in them days? I don't think they had any.
Oh, I don't know.
Saws and all this.
Well, no, they would have had the early editions of the carpenter's tools today, I'd say.
It will be interesting. You know, sort of any of these tools still exist somewhere in a museum?
Well, the Rotary have put down on South Creek Park what do you call it? A blacksmith shop.
All right.
And it has the tools that belong to the blacksmith, and also other tools, I think. So it's down on South Creek Park.
Well, so that will be interesting, especially for the young kids today.
Yes, it is. Very interesting.
How hard life was in days, and especially the working with your hand.
Well, it was very hard in those days because they didn't have the mod cons we've got today. I think they'd be very jealous if they came back to see what we had today.
Yeah, that's right. Also, can you tell us a bit about influenza? What's happened them days?
Influenza was very prevalent in those days, and lots of people all over Australia died from influenza epidemics, yes.
So that used to be an unusual death?
Not so unusual in those days, no, because it was untreatable, and it was something that killed a lot of the population and a lot of people in St Mary's, especially young people.
Young people. Okay, you got some tragic deaths here.
Yeah, I have got some tragic deaths. In the book, there's James Foster, who suffered from depression and shot himself in 1969. He was only 33 years old.
He was young,
yeah. And Robert Winter, who was riding his bike and was killed by a car at Warrington in 1974. He was 13 years old. Charles John Tyndall, born in 1814, was the son of Sir Nicholas Conyngham Tyndall, Chief Justice of the Court of Common Pleas in England. He died of cardiac asthma, aged 39, in 1853. Betty Grace Small, my mother's cousin, died with her unborn baby in 1950 after complications brought on by blood clotting and not making it to hospital in time. She was only 23 years old.
She was young, yeah.
And Selina Lurie, born 1829, was the wife of Daniel Lurie. She died of complications from the birth of her son Walter Lurie in 1860. She was 31. This was another problem with complications from the birth. Usually the mother or the baby died.
Yeah, I suppose at that time the doctors didn't know much what to do about it.
Well, sometimes, yes. There were good doctors in the area, Dr. Day being one and Dr. Barber being another, but they couldn't save everybody now.
Okay, Lynn, I think we're running out of time. I do thank you for coming in. Like I said, would you like to tell our listeners again how they can get a copy of your books?
Yes, thanks, Charles. Thanks for having me. The copy of the book can be obtained from me from Post Office Box 4023 Warrington 2747. My name's Lyne Forde, Forde, or you can ring me on 9673 3506.
Thank you very much. That was Lyne Forde from St. Mary's District Historical Society telling us about her books, and if you want to acquire their books, you can ring her at that number. If you didn't get the numbers, you can ring us 099331344, and we'll let you know how to contact Lyne. In the meantime, we have a break time. Now it's 19 past 10, and you're listening to our 100.7, the voice of the McLean region. We'll go for the last one of Donna Boyd for this morning.